There.
I'm good and you. I'm so
I
happy to
am.
see you.
Oh my God! It has been 11 years exactly since I've seen you. You haven't changed not one bit. It feels like full circle. It feels like you are back. Like oh my God! I wish I could hug you right now. Like give you a big, big, big hug. How have you been?
I've been good. I feel like so much has changed and very little has changed at the same time. I'm still very much the same person. But it's so nice to see you as well, and I too wish I could hug you right now.
Oh my God. So you said that it feels like so much has changed at the same time. Not much. Do you want to elaborate what has changed in your perspective and whatnot?
Well, I'm much older now. That's one. I feel more like a young woman than a girl. Um, a lot has changed in terms of my studies, my life, my friendships. But I think what's remained the same is who I am at my core, which is someone who's very curious, who's always loved learning, who's always loved to have great conversations, who loves being outside and is creative. I think all of that has remained the same.
You know what, Adriana? I remember this year 2015 like it was yesterday. And for anybody who's going to come back and for anybody who's going to watch the replay of this particular live, we have with us Adriana Sosa. She is a former student of Bridge Academy Haiti, which is a high school here in Port-au-Prince, Haiti, that I worked for 1 year in the year 2015. And my time at Bridge was so like intrinsic because when I joined Bridge Academy, I was just tired of Haiti. I did not want to be in Haiti anymore, but I wanted some cash, pocket cash, so that I could travel. I had already a ticket and I was waiting for pocket money to go back to the States. So I got this job at this high school and I said, because I was so tired of the work, like the way that the work was set up in Haiti. I was frustrated with everything. So when I started working with at Bridge Academy, I said to myself, I'm just going to work for 1 semester. That was the plan. The plan was to join in September. And to be really honest, I did not even anticipate that I was going to close off this semester. I wanted to leave by November and just leave. That's really what I wanted. But what I found, guys, is the kids kept me there. To be really honest, not the money, nothing else. The institution was also a very very good institution. I have to admit, it felt like I remember telling myself, I wish that I had joined Bridge Academy in the year 2013, like spent
Wait, I
2 to 3 years
think they
there.
can't hear you.
Really? Can't hear audio? Oh my
It's
God.
low and high from time to time.
It's low and high from time to time. Okay, hold on a second. Let me take off
Yeah,
my mic and let me see. Better?
yeah.
Oh my God. Okay, so can you hear me, Adriana, a lot better?
Yeah, a lot better.
Okay, so if you can hear me a lot better, I'm going to do it without the mic. I can hear you. Okay.
Okay, great.
So yes, there's so much noise around me. That's why I had the mic on because I want to kind of like blur out the noise. But as I was saying, I'm pretty sure like no, you guys can hear me. Yes, you can hear me. Don't play games. So as I was saying to you guys, it feels as if when I joined Bridge Academy that it was like a lesson. God wanting me to understand that hey, you know what? There actually are good places to work here in Haiti. There is a good place, but really what kept me there was the kids. As I was saying to you, I was teaching three classes. I was teaching middle school and I had two classes, but Adriana's class at the time, which was the ninth grade, these students were amazing. I'm talking about they gave me hope. I don't know, like I had so much fun. Even if in the beginning I know they hated me because they felt like I gave so much homework. They felt like I gave so much homework, but they took it in. Like everything that I was given, they absorbed me. I remember by the end of the semester, I was so tired because I was like, what is there to teach? You know, it's like you guys were flying. And Adriana has always been, you were part of the top students, like straight eight honor roll student. So just, it's like full circle to come back here and to read from your biography about the woman that you are. It's mind blowing, but it gives me hope. It makes me feel like the time that I spent at the school was, well, you know, it was a good time at the school. Just to see you, your growth, you are shining. It feels amazing. So I'm so very proud of you. Have no idea. Like, I'm extremely proud of you. But ninth grade to the, I guess, 12th grade, right? You graduate from Bridge? How was the experience? Like, how was the high school experience at Bridge for you?
First off, I want to say thank you for having me. It's so great to be here and it's so great to hear you. I mean, you you were a teacher that definitely marked my path at Bridge. Yeah,
Wow.
and I mean, you were. It's funny because you were saying everyone hated you at the beginning for all the homework, but my favorite part was the homework.
Oh,
And I'll get into it. I'll tell you why. So
okay.
first off, my journey. I think like any typical high school experience, it had its highs and lows. You know, I had a great time in the sense that there was so much happening at that time. I was playing sports. I was in soccer. I was dancing. I had great friend groups. I was also involved with the YWCA Haiti since I was like 14. So there was a lot in my environment and in my ecosystem. Um, there were lows because I think high school is a very awkward period for a lot of us. We're all going through puberty, hormones are all over the place. You're kind of figuring out where you fit in this world. You feel the pressure of tomorrow. You're trying to make big decisions for a world that's still, you know, in big parts unknown to you. And that can feel very daunting. But I have to say, I was really fortunate to have a few classes that I loved and a few teachers that to this day I think of. And one of the things I loved about your class is that you valued research and critical thinking. And you always pushed us to go beyond. Like you were always telling us, ask the big questions. Don't be scared to ask the big questions. Do the research. And these are definitely principles and values that I've carried into my college studies, but that I still use to this day in my work. So I'm really grateful for that.
One thing that I want for people to one of the things that I want for people to know, okay, with this particular channel that we have right now, a lot of those videos that I have on Haiti, videos that I have about Carnival, if Carnival can support the economic growth of Haiti, because a lot of those research came from your papers, especially you and Noah. A lot of the research, yes, honey, I utilize my guys, I utilize my kids a lot. A lot of those research papers that I would give the students in depth research papers about Haiti. I would give them in depth research papers about, you know, the economy of Haiti, how they can, you know, can tourism foster economic. And I use a lot of their research papers to have access to information for the YouTube videos. So that's how I knew that I had some top students in this class. It was Adriana on top of my head, Noah also at the top of my head, and a lot of them, like there were a few who were slow to pick up, but there was Reginald. By the end of the year, this class was the top class because they figure out my style. They didn't complain. They put in the good work. And the reason that I said, how was your high school experience, is because I know that the curriculum at Bridge also supports volunteerism. It also supported you guys to not only be in school, but to be involved. So now to see you transitioning, first of all, I have to say that going back to your studies, like your college studies, we're going to get into it. What made you choose this particular field of studies? Because if my memory serves me right, you wanted to go into science. You wanted to go into something that had like bioscience. That's I remember. So this was what was at the core. Like you wanted to study science, like everything that had to do with the sea lane, like aquaculture. So what diverged you to not do that and study instead business administration?
That's a good question. It's funny because I was talking to a friend last night about this call, and I was saying it's funny because at the time I wanted to be a marine biologist. And so it's funny that you bring it up. Um, I wanted to be a lot of different things throughout high school. At some point, I wanted to pursue a degree in literature. At some point, it was marine biology. And I've always been one to have a variety of different interests. I think I'm just at my core a very curious person, and I want to understand the world around me, whether it's the environment, the people, the economy. And at that point, at the point of senior year, when it was the time to make a decision, it kind of was daunting. Like, what do I do when I like so much? And so business kind of felt like a solid foundation. I figured that whatever passion I'd want to pursue ultimately in life, or that I'd want to focus on more seriously, having a business background could only be an asset, for whatever it is, whether it actually ended up being marine biology or literature. I felt like having that business background would serve me either way. And then through the studies, I kind of started discovering very particular topics within business. And one of them was regenerative economics. And that kind of strikes something in me where it was like, oh, there is maybe a way of meshing the environment with economy, with people, and it came through that field. So it kind of worked out in a very organic way for me. But yeah, it is very different from what I used to say back when I was in ninth grade.
But to be really honest, I don't know much about regenerative. It was the first time that I heard about the term, and I was like, wow, what is it exactly?
Yeah, so it is. I don't want to say it's a new study, but it's more of a niche study. So when we're talking about regeneration and specifically regenerative economics, we're talking about an approach that focuses on restoring and strengthening the systems that sustain us. So, what are the systems that sustain us? Think about the environment, think about economy, think about local communities. So, how do all of these work together to sustain us as human beings? And when you think about the world today, you think about like big systems, about capitalism, consumerism. All of it is extractive. Like we're mining, like the phone that I'm talking to you on right now, the material in it was material mined. So it was material extracted. And oftentimes, what happens with that approach is that you end up extracting and extracting and extracting and leaving a world that's depleted. And so regeneration is kind of taking, how can I say, healing these past damages while still making space for growth and for long term sustainability. So instead of looking at short term profit, we're looking at long term sustainability that works not only economically, but it works for the environment and it works for us as human beings in terms of the different opportunities we have.
Wow, so we're gonna go back into it, right? You already know I'm probably going to have a lot of questions.
Yeah,
It
yeah.
feels like regenerative. As you are mentioning regenerative economic, I'm thinking about a live discussion that I have on my consulting page that I talked about rare earth energy and with Haiti and how Haiti has a lot of rare earth right now on the ground. So we are probably going to try to see how we can, have questions regarding that. But first, I want us to talk a little bit about like the college experience. I've never also heard about your college. So did you go physically or was it online that you went to college?
So I ended up doing online. The school itself is a physical school, and Marconi is actually an Italian college. So it's in Italy. and they have a branch in Miami. And so I ended up being registered in the Miami branch. And I did my studies at a distance, so online. And this is because, to give a bit of context, when I graduated high school, I didn't go straight to college. I started working. Like, I graduated on a Saturday, on Monday, I was working. And it took some time. It took maybe like 2 years to get to a point where I felt, okay, now I'm going to do my college studies. And so by that time, I was already working. I was already a full-time employee. And so I did my studies as kind of like wearing two hats. By day, I was working, and by night, I was studying. But it was an interesting experience because when you're doing studies online, you're kind of by yourself and you have to keep yourself accountable. You have to be incredibly disciplined, which is hard. But I mean, I made it. I made my 4 years, and it worked out.
Was there a particular reason why? Because I know that you had been at the YMCA, the YWCA, for quite a while. Was there a particular reason why you took the gap and decided to work and then go to school? Was it because you wanted to figure out exactly what you was going to do, or you just really needed a break from school?
It was a little bit of everything. I felt at that time I was pulled in so many different directions, and I felt like maybe getting the hands on experience would help in determining what I wanted to do. At the same time, it was a pretty challenging time personally. My family was going through a difficult time, and it felt like the right thing to do to stay and support my mom in whatever way I could. Um, and so it was a mix of different things that kind of led me to being here. But it worked out, you know?
Now, if my memory serves me right, you do have a brother, a younger brother, right?
Yeah.
Yes. Okay. I don't think I've met him. I don't think he was a bridge when I was working over there. I don't think
He
so.
came after.
Okay, he came after. Now, one of the things that I want people to know, especially because this is a live that I'm doing on my main channel, which has a lot of videos on Haiti. Adriana is a young Haitian woman who's always lived in Haiti, who studied in Haiti. She went to high school in Haiti. And as we are hearing her, she actually went to college online. So she worked in Haiti. It's important for me to emphasize that because of the stigma that parents have, the pressure that we have to have our children travel and have our children go to universities abroad. Going to a university abroad, in my experience, does is not going to guarantee a success, especially if that child want to come back to Haiti and live and work in Haiti. I did it. I left Haiti. I actually left Haiti when I was 16, 15 years old. I finished high school in Haiti. I went to college. I mean, I finished high school in the States. I went to college in the States. And coming back to Haiti was a total shock for me. When I came back to Haiti, I was like 27 or so because I was already working. The whole experience was different for me. It's important because I remember my dad would always say that I wonder if it would have been better to keep you guys here in Haiti, to just go to universities. Maybe you would have prospered a lot better than, having you guys gone to the US. And a lot of us, in my family, we chose to come back to Haiti. So this is for people who are going to rewatch, people who are parents, people who always ask me about life in Haiti, people who are always asking me about should they have children in Haiti, should they grow. Adriana is a young woman who has always been, and she is thriving. Granted, she is also very disciplined. She's always been very, very mature. Her parents, obviously, very, like, there is nothing, I'm looking at you right now, there is nothing that has changed outside of probably the growth. I can still see you in class. So it's a reflection of the young woman that she is. So I really wanted to, have you here because I wanted people to understand that, yes, we have beautiful, successful young people that are actually doing a lot of good work. Now, with that being said, did you feel pressured when you were done with school? Like, why the choice to be here and not go live elsewhere?
You know, I think about this a lot, and I think I don't know fully if it's a choice. I think it's a culmination accumulation of different circumstances that have kind of kept me here. Um, in the sense that I think a lot of people have this misconception that, especially when a country is going through conflict, the first automatic response is to leave. And it's not always the reflex, especially when your whole life has been set up in a specific country, your family's here, your work, everything you own is within this country. And so it was difficult to kind of just decide, okay, we're going to pack up and leave. Um, and at the same time, I have been so fortunate to work in an organization that's doing such impactful work. Like we're working on the ground, we're working with people from incredibly marginalized communities, and it's tangible impact. Like you see it, you hear it in conversations that you're having with people. And when you build these relationships, and you've been building these relationships for years, you kind of feel a sense of, of loyalty towards that community to continue in pushing forward in that work. And so when finishing my studies, I knew I wanted to keep going at that work, and I knew there was so much to learn. There still is so much to learn. And like you say, I think it's important to know that there are so many young people doing incredible work here, like across all sectors, whether it's in education, in science, in health, in business. There's a lot going on, and it feels important to be here, especially in a moment that's so critical in time, where yes, there's a lot of corruption, there's a lot of disruption, but there's a lot of opportunities to build and to create. And so whenever I have a conversation with someone of my generation or my age or whoever, I'm always like, guys, like we're the architects. We're the architects of the world we want to build. We're the architects of the country we want to build. It's important that we collaborate and we make this happen, because there is opportunity for that.
Absolutely. I also feel like that is one of the things that keeps me here, because when I left the bridge, I left and I went back to the States, and I did back and forth for about 2.5 years. So between 2016 and 2018, I would come to Haiti in the month of February, but then I would leave in May. I got to do a lot of networking and branch off with the youth agency. But then in 2018, it was the breaking point for me, because I felt like, okay, you have to choose. Doing the back and forth is cool, but where do you want to live? And for me, it was more of my heart. Like my heart is in Haiti. I love Haiti. But hearing you talk, would you say that it's your passion, your calling, like, or is the work that you did? Because you're doing more of, I would say, grassroots movement work, organizational, a lot of work. And I did that in the beginning. And for people who work from the heart, you get attached. You do feel a sense of responsibilities. Like you do feel like, okay, if I live, like, because people start to look like you represent hope for them. You represent, hope for them to come maybe to the offices of the YWCA, because they're probably looking at you like, well, you could live, you're from a different social class. So when you go to this marginalized place and you are connecting with people who are having such atrocity, they in a way cling into you whether you know it or not, because you are representing hope for them, hope for a better future, hope for, like, okay, like, like, okay, maybe somewhere, somehow there's going to be like change for us, right? Because whether we want to say it or not, our realities in Haiti is very different. So even if I'm feeling it at the depth of my core, I know that I'm probably not even facing a third of what the next person is facing, that is now living in a camp, that is now having so much atrocity. So, you know, do you feel obligated to be here because of those, or like, is it a lot? Like, do you feel like I'm obligated? Like, why would I leave? I have an attachment with my community.
Yeah, no, I see what you mean. I wouldn't say I feel obligated. I'm attached and detached at the same time. Like I know that my journey will take me where I need to be when I need to be there, and I'm embracing it for what it is now. But I think of it more of in the context of where can I have the greatest impact in the work that I'm doing. And for now, that greatest impact is here in Haiti, in my community that I'm serving. Maybe next year it might take me somewhere else, and that's kind of how this work is. It's, you know, it, especially working also at an international level, and getting to collaborate with young women all over the world. I do see it in my future that I might be moving around a bit. But like you, the heart thing, yeah, definitely it's there. You know, you it's a bittersweet experience, but like I say, like I, you know, at the end of the day, like my heart belongs nowhere else but here.
You are such a sweetheart. Oh my God. Now we're gonna go a little bit into your work. I want you to tell us a little bit. Like we just jumped into it, but a lot of people don't know what you do. So can you tell us about not only your position, but what is the work that you do in this country?
Yeah. So I do a lot of things. I carry a lot of hats. I like to say I'm a feminist activist. I'm a storyteller. I'm a project coordinator. But more concretely, for the past almost 6 years, I want to say, I've been working primarily at the YWCA Haiti, which is a grassroots organization, and it's a safe space. And we work primarily with youth and women coming from marginalized and at risk communities of West. And so, what we do is we provide them with opportunities, with educational opportunities, access to healthcare, leadership training, and capacity building, and all of this within a safe space. So, that's, you know, the work that we do here in Haiti. Yeah.
Now, you work in gender equalities, but you mostly, the work of the YWCA is mostly focused for young women, correct?
Mm-hmm.
One of the things that, as I work with other people who work with organization, that I want them to strive is to actually develop programs for young men. Because even on a global scale, I just feel like it's always women at the forefront. Now, in your work, would you say that there is a heavy um, differences in gender equality here in Haiti?
So first off, the first half of the question in programs for men, we have in the past years had implemented programs for young men, particularly in recognizing that, you know, like we're providing young women with all of this information in terms of gender-based violence, sexual and reproductive health, and then once they get home and they start, you know, telling their partners, no, I'm not going to do this for XYZ, they're met with kind of like this resistance. And so it came from them. They were the ones that came to us and said, can we have a program for our brothers or cousins or husbands, you know, or boyfriends, fathers? And that's how it came to be. And so we provided the same services to them. And there was a big shift. You know, conversations started happening, and power dynamics started shifting as well. So I do agree with you. It's important to kind of give that those opportunities to both. Um, in terms of gender equality, I think particularly in the context of Haiti, we have to think about the fact that Haiti is still very much so a patriarchal society where there are lots of gender norms. And what are gender norms? You know, let's break it down. Gender norms are these cultural and societal expectations, or, you know, these beliefs that influence and shape behaviors, expectations, and access to opportunities. So youth in Haiti might be impacted by that when you think, for instance, a young woman who, you know, is expected to stay home and take care of her elders and her siblings that's a barrier to maybe an educational opportunity or to actively taking part in, economic activities. On the flip side of it, you have men that are expected to be providers and to not necessarily show vulnerability or ask for help. So you have a lot of men with a lot of mental health struggles that are not necessarily getting the support they need. And so that's when it's important to have organizations or initiatives that not only educate people on these and kind of challenge these gender norms, but also provide pathways that are inclusive to both and provide information and education to get to that point of, equal opportunities.
I completely agree because I remember one of the organizations that I worked with. This was like in 2011, and this was around in the Kwarebuke area where I ran a women's group program. And as I was running the women's group program, and it grew, and this is exactly the issues that we were facing because it's like they started to have access to information and knowing how to communicate and knowing certain things, but it's kind of like, okay, the guys are, now they're butting heads. So the same organization had to also create opportunities for men. And this is a society where we are men and women. So I do always want to stress the fact that, we don't have a society without men. So if we want to equip young women, we also have to make sure that we can equip, young men. So I'm very happy to hear that you guys also in the past or perhaps now have provided resources to young men. Adriana, you mentioned that you love the work that you do at the YWCA because of the impact. Can you emphasize a little bit as far as like from your point of view, what is the impact that the organization is making that's making you feel like yes, the work is actually valued?
Um, well, one of the things that comes to mind is that, for instance, when you think of Haiti, everything that's circulating on the news, a lot of it is, crisis and humanitarian response. And it's kind of like emergencies and always putting out fires. And what I love about the work we do is that it's long term, it's sustainable, and it's very aligned, again, with my regeneration principles. And in my actually, I've been involved since I was 14. So let's say in beyond, in like more than my 10 years of being within this movement, I've seen young women, like completely change their lives, going from being survivors of abuse to taking hold of their lives and starting their own initiatives and doing advocacy and starting, these big campaigns in their communities. Some of them have entered the labor market and now have stable jobs. And when one woman has a stable job, that impacts an entire family, if not an entire village. Or like back to my previous example of having couples that attended our leadership academy trainings come back and say, now we can have conversations and we didn't realize that we were being violent towards each other, and now we're changing our behaviors. So a lot of like unlearning my behaviors and mindsets and equipping young people to become leaders and create the change they want to see, providing the solutions to the problems that they know so intimately. And so that's a really rewarding part. I think also the collaboration with just such great people. I mean, we have a team of psychologists, of experts in education, of activists, people who just care so much about the work that they're doing. And so you're constantly learning. It's like there's never a dull day. And so that's a really interesting part of the job.
Now, do you feel that as you are doing this work, right, and as you and your team, the organization is making an impact, do you find that the state of Haiti is regressing the impact of the work, or like when you're looking at it and you're like, God, so now we're pushed back, we have to do more of this work. So do you feel like that? And do you feel sometimes that, as I was saying before, how can I phrase this? Like, okay, so I'll give an example of myself. A lot of times I may be very frustrated with the work that I do. because I just feel like I could do a lot more. I could have a lot more impact, right? For example, if I wanted to do programs where I'm inviting international organization to come here to Haiti, but now it's like Haiti has been going through so much chaos, and there was so much blockage. I can't invite people here. People can't come to the country, finding alternative ways. Sometimes I get frustrated. Sometimes I feel like, what, I'm wasting my time. You know what? Oh my God, like this is a lifelong work that I'm doing. And whenever is it ever going to be over? I'm older than you. So, how do you feel about that? Like, do you feel like sometimes it's too much?
I wouldn't say the work is regressing because I think once you've impacted a life, it flourishes and takes its life of its own, and you can't take that back. I do think the obstacles only increase, and it definitely gets to be incredibly frustrating. The challenge is, we get so much pushback, funding is diminishing, you have staff that's so tired, there's burnout. The work itself is very heavy. You're dealing with real lives and you're dealing with, really big and heavy pieces. But I stay hopeful. I stay hopeful because I've seen what we've done in the past. I see what we do every day. I think maybe it requires reshaping our understanding of what impact is and what it means, and I mean, you're doing such amazing work through the agency. Like, I get the frustration, but I wouldn't discredit everything you've already done and what you're still doing. Like, you're showing up, you're having these conversations. It might not be the way you had wanted it to be in the beginning, but you're adapting. You're adapting every day, and by having these conversations, people all over the world can tune in and listen to this. So that's amazing in and of itself, and I think that through conversations like these, through practicing collective care and sometimes taking a step back even, we can keep moving forward.
You mentioned that you have hope, which is really important, right? Because for me, I've invested those last maybe 20 something years in youth development by either teaching, by doing a lot of grassroots movement. A lot of my students, some of them are older than me because I was teaching when I came back to Haiti and to different communities, and there were people who were a little bit older than me. So I agree with you, and I second you when you say that if you impact one life, you impact an entire village, because a lot of these people, they are still here. They remember, it was kind of like whatever I taught them, whatever I gave them was a bridge. My hope is seeing people like you, right? Because I get reaffirmed. I'm looking at this is the future. And one way or another, you've collaborated in this future by giving your time, by giving your knowledge to somebody else who is having an impact. So, what about you? You said that you believe in hope. You have to remember that people who are going to tune in are people who left, or people who are afraid, or people who are like, they don't want to come back because of what the media is showing. But c'est quoi ton étincelle d'espoir? C'est quoi?
I think first and foremost, my hope comes from something that's rooted in action. Like, I don't think of hope as like it's a big word, c'est dans Leo, like I don't think of it as something abstract. I think of it as something that you do every day. And so I'm hopeful because I believe in the actions that I do every day. Like, I believe in the work that I do, I believe in the work that I see other people do. I believe in, how conversations like these have ripple effects and people will listen and maybe they'll get inspired, even if it's a single person. But I'm hopeful because the minute that you have people who believe in better and who act on it, then there's possibility. And that enough, like that for me fuels it every single day. And it's not to say that it's easy. Like, I have days where I break down and I'm like, I'm not okay. and it's hard, and I've gone through burnout. But it's a long journey, and there are ups and downs, ebbs and flows, and I think that's where it's important to kind of have your community and have people who understand and who support you and who share kind of the same vision, so that you don't have to do it alone.
Yes. And also, I feel like when I'm looking at your journey, I love the fact that you do get to travel abroad, which is important because it's kind of like it takes you away a little bit from Haiti. And I love the fact that the work that you do at the YWCA, you sit in the board. So your voice has an impact of policy making, change making. And who knows where it's going to lead in the future, politics. I don't know. Maybe. I'm hopeful because we need that. I tell people all the time that lawmakers, they create the laws that are impacting, our society. So I feel like the work that you are doing, as you said, has a major ripple effect because you do the grassroots, but you're also able to be at the forefront to the YWCA, and you're able to communicate the issues that your community is facing. And hopefully they can listen to you and they can take into consideration what you guys are doing in order to support more the organization, provide more resources, for the work that you do. I feel like the word that you probably could use for hope is consistency. So it's more of a practical work because, consistency truly yields result. If you do something consistently, you know, it is going to give you the result, whether it is positive that you do something or if it is negative, you're going to have the result. So it depends on the effort that you continue to put. So I love it. Now, going back to career and regenerative economy, because we have to touch on that before we close. I could keep you there forever. I just really want to learn and observe. First, it feels as if that study is more, it's almost kind of like a rebirthing of Mother Earth. Now, how does this study, when you think about the environmental issues happening right now in this country, how does regenerative economics supporter nous pour nous aider nous là environnement capturer nous là? How do you feel?
Okay, first of all, c'est pas environnement kap touye nou, c'est nou kap touye environnement. We have to say that. Second of all, I mean, Haiti is like a country that's bursting with potential when it comes to environmental potential, regeneration. We have everything going for us. We're an island, we have the ocean, we have sun year round. Like when you're talking about regenerative economics, you're talking about renewable energy sources. We could have so many different types of renewable energy resources spanning from solar energy to, using the ocean to, I mean, the possibilities are endless. And I think that something else is regenerative agricultural practices and making sure that, we're supporting local production, that maybe let's try to rely less on imports and more on what we're actually producing, because it's not.
I
It's
don't want
about.
to interrupt you, but the teacher in me just right now want to give you a research paper on regenerative. I'm like, oh God, like give me a research paper on that. Let's just point A, point B, point C. Let's do something. It's so
Yeah.
like it's so you have so much. Go ahead, continue.
But it's really interesting because we have so much potential. I think about countries. So I did a bit of research on like countries like Chile and Mexico, and they have what you call the carbon tax. So they're taxing these big companies that have all these big carbon emissions, and at the same time they're creating incentives for eco-friendly initiatives. So they're providing economic opportunities and encouraging people to do what we call the sustainable agriculture, the regenerative farming practices, etc., etc. So when you think about a country like Haiti, you know, we have every opportunity going for us. And so I think that people need to, we also have, that's where the mindset thing comes in, is a lot of people tend to move out of the provinces and concentrate within the capital, thinking that all the opportunities are concentrated here, but the real riches are out there. You know, it's in agriculture, and I'm a firm believer that agriculture is like the main solution to a lot of our problems. I just think it's how we do it, and not seeing it on its own, but how, you know, it can be beneficial for the economy, how it can be beneficial for young people, and, you know, providing jobs, and just how we go about living here, you know. And it can be as simple as, don't throw away the seeds of your fruits. You can plant them in your garden. Like, it doesn't take a lot to to do that, you know, or be mindful of the waste that you're creating. So little things like that.
I know that we're going to get into hobbies. I know that you do consulting work, and I do consulting work for Haiti. And, this work has literally propelled me into a lane of itself, right? Like when people tell me, who do you work for? I say I work for Haiti. I don't work for nobody for Haiti, because it's kind of like every time I decide to do something for the country, they provide a lot of information to me and I in-depth my research. For example, when you think really about the fact that the entire development of our seas, there's no development, there's no aquaculture in Haiti, or there's not really a severe aquaculture development in Haiti. When you think about the biosphere reserves of Haiti, when you think about, Mont La Selle, Pic Macaya, all of those things are what we should be looking into. So it's part of that regenerative economics that, we should look into. I was just saying in my consulting page that one of those universities, they were doing research on rocks, sedimentary rock. Haiti has plenty of sedimentary rocks. If you go up, there's so many, and they were offering billions of dollars. So the focus, in my opinion, because these are things that if I had gone to a regular school, regular university, those are more like in-depth research or different lane of work that I'm doing through the work that I do. But do you find that in terms of Haiti, schools are not necessarily, and when I say school, even with universities, are they focusing on lane of studies that student needs in order to, are they offering those courses basically? So are they offering those studies for like agriculture, for regenerative economics, for biosphere, like things that we should know that is actually going to benefit us? Do you feel like they are?
You know, I feel like I mean, there are programs. I know of a few young people who are registered in some program d'agronomie et agriculture. But I will say that I think the work needs to happen much earlier, like since primary school. I think there's a re-education in terms of, not re-education, I think it needs to be adapted to our context. You know, I think a lot of times in Haiti we tend to do kind of this copy pasting model where if this worked overseas then it's going to work here. And I think we need to change that thinking and adapt it. Last night I was watching a video on YouTube, and it was this family that visited an island on the Pacific, and they were visiting an elementary school. And to your point, all the classes in the elementary school were about marine biology, about, you know, sustainable farming practices. Of course, they had the math, the English, you know, all the basic courses, but it was 100% adapted to the environment they were living in. And I thought, how interesting is that? And I do think there's still work to be done in this regard. A lot of demystifying also around these fields, you know, kind of like inspiring young people to go into these fields, into agriculture, into, you know, into regenerative economics, into marine biology, because there is, but not only that, even I think, again, this generation needs to kind of get into politics as well, to change the laws in regards to that. We need people who think this way in decision making positions so that they can influence, le curriculum national de l'éducation and decide, okay, we're going to adapt it to this, that. So there's a lot of multi-sectoral work that needs to be done in that regard.
Well, I am hopeful in some respect with education in Haiti because when I was teaching, people like you, Bridge has a fairly solid. I remember Noah because when I went to school in Haiti, my elementary school, I did it in a Catholic school. And we
Mm-hmm.
studied geography. I hated geography. I hated, my mother used to beat me up. I couldn't, for the life of me, I couldn't, I didn't remember the lesson. And she would get so frustrated with me. But one of the main reasons was because I'm more of a visualizing learner. And, geography has to do with learning about the la faune, things like that. And I couldn't see anything. So I'm sitting there regurgitating the lesson and I can't remember it. I didn't start to understand geography and put one and one together until when I started to go into the countryside of Haiti. That's when stuff that was in my mind and I'm like, oh my God, this is this, oh my God, this is that. But it's because, when they do geography, you just learned a lesson. There is no excursion. You don't, I didn't really start to travel my country, Haiti, until 2013 or so. And I fell completely in love with this country because, as like, I don't know about your generation, but with my generation, it was always like, at home, if you go to dance school, everything, but you don't venture out. We never, my parents never took me out really out of the city. It was mainly traveling to the US or traveling to Canada, going abroad. So when I came back to Haiti as a young adult, this is when I fell in love with Haiti. And I was like, I'm not going anywhere. I love Haiti. Like, Haiti, this is where it's at. Like, I love Haiti. And they felt like, oh my God, like, no, we have a problem. You girl, you got to go back. We can't, no, you have to go back. So I love to see, I do feel like the educational is changing a bit because you have people like myself who have schools. I see a lot of different schools in Haiti, even when it came to, approach such as Creole. When I went to school in Haiti, we were not allowed to speak Creole. We had to speak French, only French. You literally would get written up if you spoke Creole. So there's a big change with that, and also curriculum, but it is mostly privatized. So I love the fact that you talked about, politics, because now it's kind of like, Haiti going into election and policy making change in Education Nationale. With my consulting page, I recently, did a project with a woman who wants to work governmental wise, but she wants to develop an app for student because she feels like, I worked in the state too, and that was a major difference. Going to the United States is like everything is through an app. Like even shopping is through an app. I don't even know if people actually walk these days in the streets in America. So I do feel like in some respect, we do have great schools, but they need to implement a little bit more technology. And when it comes to like public schools in Haiti, this is where they need to, get good teachers. Too many schools opening up and it's like it's not enough support. Like kids are not really learning what they are supposed to be learning. So that's why you have such a disparity between us, because it depends on the school. It depends on what you have access to. So government definitely must, do their due diligence and reinforcing curriculums. But girl, that's a discussion for probably some other time. Now, you do the grassroots movement and you are involved. Like, do you find that the people that you work with, are they involved in change making policies? Like, are they very active in that respect?
Yes, I mean, we have a lot of partner organizations, what we call sister organizations at the grassroots level, that are fully focused on advocacy and do amazing work in influencing policies. Um, tu me vois? Yeah, you froze for a second. um, yeah, who influence policies at the international level as well. There are other YWCAs that focus their work primarily in advocacy and have trained young women who go on and influence, big global frameworks and policies within the UN or within their governments. I know there are lots of young people, primarily in countries like Kenya, I want to say Palestine also, that have influenced local policies. Um, but yeah, there are different levels to it. I think there it's a big system, and there are different ways to kind of be a change maker. It can be as simple as having a conversation like this one, or it can be through big campaigns, or it can be through, standing your ground in a room where everyone is against what you're saying, but you believe in it so much that you're staying true to your values. Or it could be going to the UN and lobbying, or lobbying in front of your own government. There are so many ways around it. I think what's important is making sure that grassroots organizations and agencies like yours really equip young people with the tools and the knowledge they need to be able to, do whatever they feel they want to do to create that change. Yeah, that's empowerment for me.
That is the truth. I love it. And I love the fact that you said that you can be a change maker at different level. It's always very important for people to understand you don't need to be loud. You don't need to be popular. You don't need to, you just need, it could be in your house. It could be that the way that you are choosing to live has an impact on the other people that are in your vicinity. It could be as simple in that. I tell them this all the time. You really don't need a crowd. It could just be the way, like you could decide that I'm not going to throw any trash around me and people are watching and they are observing that behavior. And through your behavior, you are making an impact. You are making that change. So the next person, the next child, because they see you not throwing any garbage outside, they're not going to do that, and that's really how, change can start. Now, because before we close off, I want you to talk a little bit about, you say that I know that you consult. So in which area do you consult?
I consult primarily in regenerative economics, but also in helping startups and young activists kind of set up their initiatives. So, taking the vision and making it more concrete, whether it's through, like a theory of change, or setting up your goals, or figuring out how to put words to your vision. So, I mainly work with startups or up and coming activists and young people. Yeah.
So how can they reach you, madam, if they, people wanna, that's a great way to consult and to, how can people reach out to you?
You can reach out to me on my Instagram page or through email, it's on my Instagram page.
Okay, what is the Instagram page?
Sosa,
Okay.
DRIISOSA.
Okay, that is our Instagram page for those of you who may be interested in regenerative economy. For a lot of you that I know who are really wanting to start a business in Haiti, you have ideas, that is another consultant that you can have access to. As you can see, I'm not the only one, and I'm not afraid to have anyone in my platform who is doing an excellent work, because listen, I know this girl is going to put you on. If you have her in your team, you really don't need me, trust me. So Adriana, anything else that I mean, I could literally keep you here forever and talk to you and talk and talk, but anything else that you wanted to add to close down the conversation?
I just want to say a big thank you to you for reaching out, for having me. I'm so happy to be able to have this conversation and catch up after 11 years.
Yeah.
That's crazy. It's beautiful to see your journey, to see what you're doing. And yeah, I mean, it's amazing to see that there are people out there who also work for youth empowerment and,
Yeah.
believe
Thank you.
in, yeah, in a future, in a positive change. So yeah, so thank
Thank,
you.
Well, thank you so much for being here with me. It was so important for me to receive you. First of all, because of the connection that I have with you as a past, as a former student, just to see your growth and your lane, and it just makes me feel so proud. It makes me feel like, going to work in Haiti is not the easiest thing. So sometimes you just don't want to go to work, but going to work in Haiti and seeing the result of what you've accomplished is just so good for me. And I also want to commend you. You've entered a lane that is not easy. I'm in it. I know I've entered it in my 20s, and there was a lot of breaking points where I was like, I'm not doing it anymore. I'm done. Like, if I can stop back out, no. But then it's like you get the pull in, you get the strive. And I not only commend you, but I want to let you know that Haiti needs people like you, especially in a time like this. Never feel and never believe that the work that you do is not in vain. You are a beautiful Haitian woman. The work that you are doing will have a ripple effect that you will not even see, but it will. So we are proud of you. We send you our courage, our love. And if you ever need me for anything, please never be afraid to reach out. At any level, I am here for you. Okay?
Thank you.
Okay. Have a
Thank you.
beautiful, beautiful, beautiful Sunday, my love.
You too.
Thank
Thank
you so much for
you.
being here. Bye. Bye. So, guys, I just really want to close off this live. As you can see, I have enjoyed having Adriana part of our conversation series. It's truly a delight to hear from her. As I said, I could keep her here forever. This is an excellent conversation for those of you who love Haiti, for those of you who want to know about the field of lane of work that you could choose to be in this country. This is to give you more, concept. This is to give you more insight into some people that are truly doing an excellent job. Thank you so much for being here with me. And I look forward for our next conversation series.